long time to talk to you, so we'll get him up here. So let's start from the beginning. In Cold Blood, which is just a masterpiece. How do you start off with a film like that? It's like starting with Citizen Kane, and then how do you keep going after that?
The first film was a film called In the Heat of the Night.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome.
And that led to In Cold Blood. Sidney Poitier and Quincy Jones called the director of In Cold Blood and said that they thought he should look at me. So that's how In Cold Blood came about.
You play a pretty nasty guy in that movie, which is funny because you're not a nasty guy.
You don't know anymore.
Obviously, you've had a steady career since you started over almost 50 years ago.
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll get closer.
What made you decide to first want to be an actor, or did it just come naturally?
Well, I'm from Georgia. And when I was 19, I hitchhiked to California. And I was going through Texas. I had water blisters this high above my hairline. It was so hot going through the state. But I've hitchhiked across Texas about three and a half times in my life. But I got to California, and tell you the truth, I got drunk and ended up in an acting class. And the coach said, "I don't know what your problem is, don't come back to my class drunk." So I went back the next week, and he apologized to him, and he gave me a monologue to do from a Eugene O'Neill one-act play called A Long Voyage Home. And for some reason, I went back the next week and did it. And when I did, I said, "This is it. This is what I want to do." So I'm still trying to learn how.
And being out in Hollywood, is that kind of an experience all on its own, or is it a huge difference from what it was back then to what it is now?
I think it's every place has changed, but when you're younger, you're rolling with it a little more. But that's one thing that's so cool about being on The Walking Dead, is that it was shot in my home state, and I was running into people that I knew when I was 4 or 5 years old, which was kind of strange. When you knew them then, your life was ahead of you, and now you're sitting there and you're kind of looking back quite a bit. So it was interesting. It gave me the opportunity to spend some time with my mom, who will be 100 next month. So it's been good. Life's been good.
Now, obviously, everybody wants to talk about The Walking Dead, which I promise we'll get to. One thing that I would hope is a bit of a precursor, other than the fact that you've been in so many films, is a horror film that I know a lot of fans here like, Leslie Vernon, Behind the Mask: The Return of Leslie Vernon. So I'm going to assume you didn't have to audition for that role as Eugene. You were just called on, I'm going to assume.
Yes. I knew one of Scott Glosserman, who was a friend of mine, and I let him talk me into doing it because it was a very clever script. It was a very smart script, and it was a lot of fun doing it. The rumor is they want to make a sequel, but I wish they'd hurry up and do it. I mean, in the last one, I was able to get out of the box. You wait too much longer, I may not be able to get that ground back.
And Nathan Basil, who played Leslie Vernon, you seem to have a nice connection with him.
It was fun. It was a lot of fun. And again, a lot of young, talented people. It's so fun with these young people that I've been fortunate enough to work with. But that's kind of been the case my whole career, I've been I'm fortunate to work with really gifted people right from the beginning. Sidney Poitier, Rod Steiger, George C. Scott, Burt Lancaster. A lot of you may not know who some of these people are. But right from the beginning, I've worked with gifted people.
And right now, obviously, I'm sure a lot of people are here because of The Walking Dead, which is such a huge cultural phenomenon. How did you get involved with that? Did they just give you a call and say, hey, listen, we want you to be a part of this?
Basically. I mean, I was in Georgia for my mother's 97th birthday, and I made a comment to this friend of mine saying, as much work as I've done and as many films as they've shot in Georgia, I've never worked here. And about an hour later, the phone rang, and it was this. So they, it started out 2 or 3 episodes, and then 20 minutes later it was 10 or 11. And 10 minutes later it was first season and maybe the second season. I said, let's do it a season at a time. So that was, and when you hear names, like Frank Darabont and Gil Ann Hurd, you get interested because they have been involved with some very good films. And, so I looked at the first season, I said, this is a good show. These are talented young people. And Nicotero's work was just fantastic. And so I said, yeah, I want to be involved with that. It'll be fun. And it was fun.
Were you sad when your character, spoiler alert, was...
Well, I didn't throw any chairs or anything. But I was expecting it, When I saw episode, in the first place, you know you're going to go when you go on the show. You just don't know when, And then in episode 403, was it Isolation, I think the name of it? Where I had that speech when you step outside. That beautiful speech was wonderfully written. And when I got that, I said, they're going to kill me. You don't live long after lines like that. And then in episode 405, there was no doubt in my mind. And if there had been before, there wasn't now. And the next day, sure enough, Scott Dimple called me into the office and told me that I was on the way out. So, but it was fun. It's a tough spot for him to be in, to decide who he's going to kill. but it's, again, you kind of expect it. You know what's going to happen. But it was fun. It was fun, and I made some friends that will stay friends from now on. So.
Is there anybody on the show that you
And I'm here right now.
Is there anybody you've grown particularly close to that, you were talking about people that you stay friends with. Is there anybody that you really love from the cast who obviously is still there?
Well, I tell you, really, everyone on that cast is bonded. It's a very close-knit group that I haven't seen any ego flashes or people trying to, outposition someone, which you see occasionally in my business. But no, everyone, I like them all. They're a good group. It's a good group. Talented, smart, good looking. I hate them.
Is there any episode in particular for you that you really love and that was really poignant for you?
Well, a lot of the episodes, not just the ones that I was in, but all the stuff with the Dixon brothers was interesting stuff. I thought Sarah, and I loved Dale. I thought Dale was a wonderful I loved Iron Singleton. All those cast members that were killed off from the first season, when they were killed off, that was a big loss for the show. They basically built the fan base. They expanded the fan base. I think there was fans based on the comic books, but then I think the cast expanded it beyond the followers of the comic books. So they did a great service to the show. And in essence, I think as they died off, the remaining cast members had walked on their shoulders. And now I guess they'd be walking on my head.
Do you get noticed a lot out in public? Do people call you out? Yell Herschel?
Well, they do, yeah. I mean, it's definitely changed my profile. I'm on police blotters now. One DUI.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and open it up for fans, because I know you have a lot of questions for Scott, this gentleman.
Scott, personally, my favorite episode from this last season had to have been a tournament with you in it, where it was just a Herschel episode. My question for you, sir, is when Jeffrey DeMunn departed the series, and he was really kind of like a voice of reason, kind of a father figure to the whole group, as you can tell. What did you feel like coming into the series, thinking that was probably the kind of position that you're going to be put in, where you were already a father in the series, and you were going to kind of watch all these people? How did that make you how did you interpret your acting into finally being that figure where you were going to kind of look over a group of people like that?
Well, due to whatever thought processes were going on in the writer's room, when I came on, I had no idea that Jeffrey DeMunn Dale would be taken out. I know at one point in my first season, I was told that they were going to take me out, that they were going to kill me. And it said be episode 10 or 11, so I'm reading the script, and they didn't, and I'm reading the script, and they didn't. So and Jeffrey left the show. And I won't speak to what, his reasoning, that was, or the reasoning behind that. But I realized that it opened the door, I think, for Herschel to be more, try to fill some of the void left by Jeffrey's departure.
Mine kind of goes along with that. I mentioned to you earlier that what you just said of how you kind of took Dale's spot as the voice of reason.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just wondering, how was the transition for you as a fan and as the actor to go from being kind of like the ignorant guy that wants to save all the zombies to being the logical one that everybody comes to?
Well, it was interesting to me. The between season 2 and 3 of the show, my first and second season, at the end of the first season, Herschel became more proactive. He was taking out the zombies. He got it. Episode 8, he got it. He finally got it.
Yeah.
And then when they would run off the farm, at the end of the season, I said, okay, I'm not going to cut my hair until the show starts up again. Then at a certain point, I said, I'm not going to shave. So, because I thought, I don't know what the time frame will be between the 2 seasons, but if there is a bit of time in there, several months, 6 months, then that might be interesting to see Herschel physically changed, because he's lost his farm, he's lost his wife, he's lost his friends. so maybe he wouldn't care as much about his personal grooming. But, and now I've got attached to it. So,
Go more for the character. You're not looking to stick into any certain genre.
I don't, I think a good script is a good script, whatever the genre may be. A good role is a good role, whatever the genre may be. I recognized Herschel for being a great role and had a lot of fun with it. And it's different doing a show, like a TV show, as opposed to doing a play where you realize the full arc of the character in one night. You have the beginning, the middle, and the end. So in a TV show or a movie, well, a movie, you know the beginning, the middle, and the end. You know who's going to live, you know who's going to die, you know what's going to happen. You may shoot it out of sequence, but you know. And with a television show, you don't. You don't know what's going to happen from one season to the next. I'll give you an example. I was in Dubrovnik, Yugoslavia. I was doing a film there called Castle Keep that Sidney Pollack directed. And I was in a hotel on the Adriatic, and with this actor named Michael Conrad, who was this big, tall guy. And we were at the desk of this hotel, and these two girls come up, and we knew they were from the States because they weren't dressed like people who lived there. And one of them said to Michael, says, "You look familiar." And I said, "Yeah, he's a movie star. You recognize him from the movies." Yeah. Then one of them says to me, "You look familiar." He said, "You recognize him from the movie." I said, "Yeah, what movie?" "In Cold Blood." She screamed, both of them screamed and hollered. And they must have backed 30, 40 feet up, and the walls stopped them, or they would still be backing up. So I guess, I said, so that's what it's like to be a movie star. So this is a little different now. People don't run from me.
Did somebody over here have a question? I thought I saw a hand raised. Yes, you.
Considering the number of characters you played, which one would you say is most like you, or which one were you more able to place more of yourself into?
Everyone in this room has the same emotions. Everyone that by the time you're 3 years old, you've experienced just about every emotion you're going to experience. So it's really just a question of finding the emotions that you think fit the character that you're trying to play. I did a film, I'm not Catholic, but I did a film based on a play that Pope John Paul II wrote when he was a young man. He wrote a play as a tribute to the person that was his inspiration for following his vocation into the priesthood. And that was interesting. It was a person who lived from 1845 to 1917. And in his 40s, he came in contact with the homeless, and it changed his life. And he gave up the world of art, became a monk, and developed the balance of his life to the homeless. I'd like to say that I could do that, but I can't. As an actor, you are called on to play a lot of things. In Cold Blood, I didn't want the audience to like me. I wanted them to dislike me, Richard Hickok. But I wanted him to know he was a human being. So you really kind of get a feel for what you're reading and what you expect out of it, and hopefully it works out.
We've got time for one more question. Yes.
Hey, now that Dale's gone, now that you're gone, is there anybody left on the show you think that can replace you as the moral compass?
Little ass kicker.
Thank you so much for coming out, Scott. I really appreciate it. Thanks a lot.